All right, guys, so now we're on to the second video, so you should have just finished that part. Now, heading number 2, so remember that our first part was change in momentum. Um, the second part is going to be momentum of a system. Momentum of a system. So that's your second heading. Now, for the momentum of a system, yesterday in the lab, we looked at the system of the two balls. And so we have ball 1 and ball 2, and you guys calculated by adding the momentums together, you calculated the total momentum or the momentum of that system. So I just want to take a quick note about what that is that you did. And so a system is simpler than it might sound. So when we say a system, all we're talking about is a group of objects. And now a system can be really complicated. A system could have hundreds of different objects, or in the case that we had yesterday in our lab, it just had 2 objects. And so whatever the number of objects that are interacting, that's what needs to be in your system. And so let's make a second little note here, because I do think that it's nice to sort of, I'm going to go ahead and use this. It's nice to make this little note. So we need to keep this in mind, that if you are describing a collision, okay, so if you're describing a collision, the system must include all the objects involved in the collision. Okay, sorry, I know that's a lot to write, but that is an important sentence. So if you're describing a collision, the system must include all the objects involved in the collision. So let's just say that there's 3 objects involved in the collision. Well, I can't define my system with just 2 of those objects, because then all the rules we're talking about, then they don't make sense. So anything that's involved in the collision has to get included in your system. Now, yesterday there were just 2 things in the system. There were just those 2 balls. But if we put a third ball in there and that ball is going to be involved in the collision, it's going to run into something, it has to be included when we calculate our system. Okay, so that's a really important thing that we understand, what we just wrote down. And this is another one. Let's put this, and I want to kind of, let's put this nice and big, okay? So no outside forces. Okay, so anything that's going to exert a force on an object in your system, it has to be included in your system. Okay, so if wind is important, then it better be a part of your system. Okay, because if it's going to exert a force on one of your objects, it has to be involved in your system. We don't leave any forces out of our systems. Okay, now when we calculate the momentum of a system, we did it yesterday. It's really simple. We just add them all together. So let's write a quick equation for this. So we're using P again, and we're going to say that P system equals P1 plus P2 plus P3. And I'm going to put a dot, dot, dot. So here's all this means. Whatever's in your system. So if there's 3 objects in your system, 1, 2, 3, then you just add those 3 together. If there's 10 objects in your system, this is going to say P1 plus P2 plus P3. So just take the moment, and then you go on and on to 10. But the momentum of every object in your system has to be included in this, okay? So the number of things that you add up is going to depend on how many things there are in your system, okay? So add them up. Boom, there we go. And I'm going to go ahead and highlight this also. This is an important thing. So now you have two different equations highlighted on this one note sheet. All right, that's the end of the second part. You're going to go on to the third video now.